Have you ever wanted to make your very own fermented veggies but didn't know how? Well, today I'm not only going to show you how to make your own perfect fermented vegetables, but I'm also going to give you the science behind it. I'm Nanette, certified master herbalist and founder of aimtohealth.com. So to begin with, I'm going to show you everything that you're going to need for this project, starting with the veggies. Now you can choose whatever veggie you want. You can do with carrots or cauliflower or broccoli, anything that you prefer, beets even. I've chosen cabbage today, and what I'm going to add to it are little grape tomatoes and some fresh dill and even some ginger. These are some of my favorite ingredients to add in fermentating my vegetables. You want to, in choosing cabbage, choose a very dense and heavy weighted head of cabbage, and it should look, the outer leaves should be fresh looking. There should be a shimmer, a shine on the leaves themselves, because you want this to be very, you want it to be very compressed and tight. That's the sign of a fresh head of cabbage, and that's what we want to look for. And this is organic. Organic foods, veggies, have a lot more nutrition in it, so I highly recommend that. But if you can't find an organic section in your local store, that's okay. Just go ahead and get the cabbage that they have. Here I have the garlic that I've chosen to add to it. I've already peeled my garlic, and what I'm going to do before I throw it in is I'm going to crush it. You can also dice it, cube it. I'm going to press on it with my knife. So in doing that, you activate a very powerful component in the garlic called allicin. And I'm just going to throw that into my fermented veggie jar just to add extra powerful constituents into the nutritional value of it. I'm also going to chop up some of this beautiful ginger. Now, you can go ahead and scrape off all of the, use a peeler, the skin on this ginger, or you can wash it really, really well and you can leave it on there because the skin also has nutrition in it. So I'll just slice that up and throw some of that in there as well. And then I picked up this beautiful bunch of fresh dill. Look at this. It's so amazing. So I'll be throwing some of that into my jar as well. So you can be very creative with this. You can throw in some basil or some thyme, anything that you choose that you would like to add a little more flavor to your fermented veggies. And in doing so, it adds a lot more nutrition too. And you can have fun with it. And we're also going to need a jar, some type of pickling jar here. I chose a large mason jar with a removable lid. But you can choose anything that you have on hand, maybe an empty pickle jar or something. Sometimes you can go to like a garage sale and find some jars there that they're selling and get them very inexpensively. You'll also want a weight. So I've chosen this weight. I bought it on Amazon, and I'll go ahead and leave a link to that. So if you choose to use that as well, then you'll have it that you can purchase that right away. And this is what it looks like. It has a little nub here so you can put it down into your jar. And I will explain as we go on why this is going to be necessary. And I also have here, these are little burpee lids that I bought on Amazon. And again, I will leave a link to that as well if you would like to go ahead and purchase those for yourself or your project. And you'll see here that in this nipple part, there's a little split right there. There's a little split, a little opening right there. And that's to allow the carbon dioxide that's going to be formed in this process to push out and release that gas into the air so that the fermentation process is not disturbed. And then you're also going to need a good quality salt. I have chosen my Himalayan salt which I love because it is loaded with lots of minerals. But you can also use sea salt. You can purchase that from your local store. Just make sure it has no iodine that's added to it. Iodine will hinder the fermented process. And definitely don't use the table salt that's out there. It's just does not have a whole lot of nutrition to it. So I would recommend that, Himalayan salt, sea salt, or even Celtic salt, something that is very natural. And you'll also need some water. We'll need some distilled water. You don't want to use faucet water that's loaded with some chemicals in it. You'll want to use a nice distilled water. Then you're also going to need a scale. This is my scale here that I purchased, and it's great because you can weigh out your jar, your veggies, the water, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do all of that. And lastly, you're going to need a tamper type of device, or you can actually just use your hands. Like if your hand can fit into the jar to push it down, you can use that. You can use a rolling pin that doesn't have any handles attached to it. I was using this. This went to a juicer that I have. And the other day I purchased some small little basil plants, and I was going to actually replant them into a big pot. And so I was looking for my watering pitcher, and I found this. And I don't know if you're like me, but you collect things over the years and you forget about them, and then all of a sudden you trip over it. So I saw this and I thought, wow, this is going to be perfect for my video on fermenting vegetables. Okay, so here we are, and what I'm going to do is pull off these outer leaves that are loosely hanging on to this cabbage, and we're actually going to use these leaves in our fermentation process. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse out this cabbage really, really well, and then I'm going to do the same with my leaves. So we're going to go ahead and wash those really well as well, and I'll be showing you what we're going to be doing with these. They'll be important in our process that's called layering. So let's go back to our counter. Okay, so I've already started to cut my cabbage, and I took out the core, and I'm slicing this rather thickly. That's how I prefer my cabbage chopped, is more on the chunky side. But you can chop yours as finely as you want. You can use a food processor or whatever veggie that you're using. Just be creative and have fun with it. So we're going to go ahead and continue to slice this. Okay, so now that the cabbage is chopped and whatever veggie of choice you have, we're going to start filling our jar, and you can be as creative as you want. So first, what I'm going to do is go ahead and put some dill at the bottom of my jar to get it going. So just go ahead and place some of that in there. And I'm going to throw a piece of ginger. I'm going to throw in some of my garlic. And again, you'll want to press and make sure that you bruise and crush your garlic if you choose to do so, because in crushing it or chopping it, that releases a very strong compound called allicin. And allicin is so fantastic for your immune system. So you want to go ahead and not only add flavor, the garlic adds tremendous flavor, but it also adds that very health-building compound called allicin. So then we're going to really begin to put our veggies in here and stack them in. And you can use your hand to go ahead and press that down. Well, that was noisy. And I'm going to go ahead and add some of my tomatoes too. And you see how very colorful it's beginning to look. I'll go ahead and put some more of my ginger. Again, more garlic, and we'll press that in there. And you'll continue to layer up whatever ingredients that you've chosen, whatever veggies and herbs and spices that you chose. You'll continue to stack those up and press as you go. Okay, so my jar is done and I've filled it up pretty much up to the shoulder level here. I'm going to actually press it down just a little bit more, but now we're going to go over to the scale and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to get the right proportion of salt. Now, the importance of salt is that not only does it make your fermentation, the fermented veggies taste really good, but it also helps to keep the bad bacteria from forming. So it's kind of like a protective layer. And the ratio that we want in our fermented veggies is somewhere between 2% and 3%. So I'm going to roughly go with about 2.5%. And I'm going to show you how I do that with this scale. So let's go. So here we have the scale. And I've turned it on and it's showing 0. I'm going to take an empty mason jar that's the same size as what I'm using. And you see that it has a weight, but what I'm going to do is hit the tier button and go ahead and 0 out my scale. So now we know that the weight of this jar is not going to be included in the weight. So I'm going to go ahead and place the jar on the scale, and it's the jar that we just filled with all of our spices and veggies, and it comes out to 26.77 ounces. So to this, what I'm going to do now is add the water to it. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up with distilled water, and we're going to make sure that it comes all the way up to the top and a little bit over. So now we're going to go ahead and see how much this weighs. So the combined weight is now 57.66 ounces. That's the combined weight of the vegetables and the water minus the weight of the jar. So I went ahead and put in the 57.66 ounces into my calculator, and I'm now going to multiply it by 0.025. And we come up with 1.41 ounces. And that is what we want to shoot for as far as how much salt. That will be the correct proportion of salt that we want to put in here. So this is what we want to see on our scale is 59.08, and we'll just go with 59 ounces. So we're going to come back to our scale here, and I'm going to start adding the salt, and it should come up to 59 ounces. Okay, so I've got my Himalayan salt, and I'm going to go ahead and start shaking a little bit of it in at a time. Okay, so I've added my salt, and we are right at the 59.01 mark. And that is the correct proportion of salt that we want to use. And that's going to produce a very perfect and wonderful fermented veggies. Now, the process of fermenting veggies with water and salt is called lactofermentation. And the reason for that is that there's a certain good or friendly bacteria called lactobacillus that works on eating up the sugar and the starches within the carbs that are on the leaves of the vegetable, on whatever vegetable that you're fermenting. And it just builds up all of those, they multiply and they become what we call probiotics. So the end result of lactobacillus in a process of lactofermentation, the end result is lactic acid, and the lactic acid that you'll be getting at the end of the fermentation process is just loaded with the probiotics. And I don't know if you knew this, but 80% of your immune system is located in your gut. And that is so incredible to know that. And it's in the form of microbes, also called microbiota. That environment's called microbiota, and that's the good bacteria that makes up 80% of your immune system. So we want to keep that area nice and healthy and robust by feeding it the good bacteria from the fermented veggies. This is going to be so vitally important in building your immune system. And your immune system is like an army. It's only going to be as strong as you provide the nutrients to build it. So you have a nice, strong defense system. Now, the ratio of bacteria in your gut is 85% good or friendly bacteria to 15% of bad bacteria. Now, even the bad bacteria have a purpose there, but what happens is due to processed foods and not getting enough probiotics, the maybe stress, the environment, all of these factors come into play where that 15% of the bad bacteria begins to get overwhelming and the ratio becomes unbalanced. And then you have more of the bad bacteria than the good bacteria, and that's where you get things like indigestion, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, diarrhea. So you'll want to maintain your healthy gut flora with fermented veggies. So now that we have the right amount of salt in our fermented veggie jar, we're going to go ahead and add the lid and give it a little shake, because we want to make sure that the salt we just added is going to be nice and dissolved. Then we're going to go ahead and take the lid back off, and we're going to take our tamper device and we're going to press this down and make it nice and consolidated. So we're going to go ahead and press it down nice and tightly. We want to make sure that all the veggies are submerged below the water line. And again, the reason for that is because we want an anaerobic or no oxygen environment for them, for the good bacteria, the lactobacillus, to multiply and to increase. And we don't want any of the bad bacteria. Bad bacteria actually develop in an oxygen-rich environment. So if you don't have everything submerged, then you risk the chance of mold developing or some other type of bacteria developing. So we press it down, all of our veggies, and then we make sure that the water is way above the level of the vegetables. And that's what the tampering helps to do. The next thing we're going to do is, do you remember those leaves we set aside from the cabbage? We're going to add a little protective layer by grabbing one of our leaves here. And what I like to do is just kind of rip it a little bit, make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to actually stuff it in here and press it down inside to promote an extra layer of protection to make sure that my veggies stay below the surface of the water. So we're going to go ahead and continue to press that down. Now, those weights that I showed you earlier, this is such a great little idea, is this weighted glass is going to help to go down in here and keep the veggies submerged. But I also want to show you a really good trick that you can use that is very inexpensive. So if you don't want to go out and purchase these, here's something else that you can do. You can get a simple plastic baggie, and what we're going to do is we're going to insert it inside the top of this jar. And you want to go ahead and press it down, make sure that it's pressed all against the edges of your jar. And now we're going to fill it with some water. So the water is going to act as a natural weight on top of your veggies. And then we're going to seal it up. Make sure you get all the air out of the baggie. We're going to seal that up and then press that in. And what you'll do is just put your lid on, just loosely turn the lid, And there you have your own very quick, inexpensive weight that you can use. Now I'm going to show you how the glass weight works as well if you choose that option. So what we do is we just send this glass weight down into the jar, and as you can see, it's working very, very well to keep everything below the surface. And that's going to maintain an anaerobic environment so we can get all that good bacteria flourishing. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take this little insert, and I call it my little burpee, because as this is fermenting, we're going to see lots and lots of bubbles come up, and that's the CO2 that's being formed as the bacteria is eating at the starches and the carbs and the sugars to form the good bacteria. So you simply take this and you insert it this way, and again, all of that CO2 is going to pop through here. And we're going to just attach this here like this, and this will secure and make sure that you're not going to have any spillage whatsoever. But if you don't want to go ahead and purchase these, what else you can do is simply go ahead and take your lid and make sure that it's not on tightly. You don't want to put it on tightly. Put it on loosely. That way, you'll see that the CO2 will be able to exit, but it will exit through the loose lid. Now, something else you can do just to make sure that it doesn't overflow from the CO2 being developed, you can call what I call this burping once a day. So you'll take the lid and just kind of let some of the air out, the CO2 out, and then you'll put the lid back on. And don't worry, oxygen won't get in there because you have your layers there. You have the leaves layering down, you have the weighted bag in there, or your weight, and everything is staying submerged. So I did tell you I was going to give you the science behind the fermentation process. So now that we have this already made, this is going to go through 3 stages of the fermentation process. So let's begin. Stage 1 happens within the first 5 days. The oxygen-using bacteria metabolize all the oxygen present and make the brine into an aerobic or oxygen-free environment. And now for stage 2. Stage 2 begins between days 5 and 7 of the fermentation process and lasts until day 10. This is what I call the bubbly stage. You'll want to look for the bubbles caused by the microbes producing carbon dioxide, and this is the stage where you'll want to burp your lid once a day. You'll also have some lactobacillus forming during this time. And then for the final stage, stage 3. Stage 3 begins between days 10 and 12 from the start of fermentation. This is the time that the lactobacillus truly multiply, so you'll want to give this stage adequate time. So the amount of time that I recommend is between 1 and 2 weeks. Allow this time where your good bacteria is going to flourish and multiply. And this is how lactic acid is formed. And once the process is done, anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks or 30 days, you can now enjoy your fermented veggies and all the amazing health benefits that come with that. And you want to be sure that once you open it, to put in the refrigerator, and that will last about 3 months in your refrigerator. So if you found this helpful, hit the like button and be sure to share and to subscribe. And until next time, stay safe and be well. Today's video is all about beets. These beautiful beets that are so rich in nutrients, and I'm going to show you how to pick them in the store, the best type to pick, and how to prep them, how to store them, and finally, how to juice them. So first, let me start off with the 4 types of beets that are grown. We have red beets, which all of us are familiar with, and then there are candy cane beets. There are also golden beets, and there are white beets. The most popular that we're familiar with are the red beets. Their peak time is between June and October, and if you purchase them during those months, that's when they're at their peak and the highest nutrition. But you can also purchase them all year round as well. Organic is always going to be more nutrition, no pesticides. But if your store doesn't carry organic, that's okay. Just go ahead and get the best that you can. And some stores don't carry these beets with the leaves attached, and so if you find a store that doesn't have them, or multiple stores that do not carry beets that have the leaves attached to them, be sure to look for this. You want to make sure that it still has the bulb, the beet still has its tail. This is called like a tail, and you want to make sure that this upper part here is going to be a vibrant color. So you'll want to look for that. And when you bring these home, what you'll want to do right away is, we'll go ahead and do this here. You'll want to cut the leaves from the bulbs about 1 inch from the top of the bulb. And the reason for that is because those leaves will keep sucking nutrition from the bulbs, so you don't want that. The great thing about finding these roots with the leaves attached is that you're basically getting 2 vegetables in one, because these beautiful greens here, they're edible. You can wash them and you can put them in your smoothie, you can juice them, you can even lightly saute them, or you can chop them up and put them in your salad. They're highly nutritious and you don't want to throw them away, but what you do want to do is, what we're going to do here right now is, we are going to cut these leaves away from the roots, and we're going to do it, like I said, about 1 inch from the base of this root. So you want to leave about this much there, and that way, and I'll go ahead and cut all of these right now, and I'm going to show you just how you're able to store these. So you can basically take the bags that you place them in from the store and store them into those bags. So we'll take the beets, the bulbs, we'll go ahead and place them in this bag, and what you want to do is make sure that all the air is out of them, and go ahead and knot it up. So you have it like this, and you can store this in your refrigerator for up to 3 weeks. But trust me, this earthy, wonderful, sweet tasting root is not going to last 3 weeks. You're going to want to start eating it, drinking it, juicing it. It's amazing. Now you'll want to do the same thing with the leaves. Just gather them up and go ahead and place them in the bag that you brought them home in, and release the air from the bag like this. Go ahead and tie a knot on that. So there you have it. These 2 bags can be stored in your refrigerator for up to 3 weeks. But today I'm going to show you also now how to wash and prep your root so that we can enjoy it and use it. So let's go over to the sink. So here we are at the sink, and I'm going to go start some nice cold water here. And I have 2 bulbs. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take a little brush and just start brushing around the root and getting any excess dirt or anything like that off of the root, and then rinsing it really, really well. And that's one. And I've got my second one that I'm going to work with too. And we're just going to use this brush, get it all nice and clean. Okay, so what we're actually going to do is we have two choices here. We can either use a paring knife and we can start trimming the skin off of the beet, which you can see that it comes off fairly easily like this. Or what you can do is you can use a peeler, and that kind of makes it easy too. So both ways are pretty good. I like to use the peeler because for me it just works faster, and I just enjoy doing that. But you can use either method, and what we're basically going to do is we're going to make sure that we take all the skin off of both of these roots. And let's go back over to the counter. Okay, so we have our beets washed and peeled, and keep in mind the beet juice will stain on your fingers, on your cutting board, so be aware. And it's pretty powerful red. So what I've done is I have these two beautiful bulbs freshly washed and freshly peeled. Now I want to mention that there's many ways that you can enjoy this beet root. What you can do is you can slice it, dice it, and then you can saute it, and put some seasonings, a little olive oil, or you can bake it in the oven. I know of some people that even shred it and use it in muffin recipes. Another thing you can do is you can ferment it. And if you click on this link above, you'll learn all the complete guide on how to ferment vegetables, including the wonderful, awesome beet. And in that way, when you ferment, you'll get incredible probiotics along with the package. And a third way that you can do is you can juice your beets. And right here, what I have is, it's called a Champion Juicer. This is an oldie but goodie. I've had this for decades, and it's so heavy, but I love it because it extracts so amazingly. Now there's plenty of extraction juicers on the market today. You can find what works for you. I stick with my Champion Juicer because it's what I'm used to and what works for me. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take our beets, and we're basically going to cut them up to a nice size that's going to fit inside of your juicer, whichever one you've purchased. And I'm going to show you this, how amazing this will juice up just in moments. So here we go. Now this is going to be loud, so we'll just take a few moments. Okay, it's done. Now look at this. Look at this beautiful color. Is this amazing? Look at the deep red and all the sweetness and earthiness in it. So we'll go ahead and pour this into our glass. Now for the taste test. That is so amazing. It has such an earthy and sweet taste to it. It's like nothing you've ever had before. It just is very satisfying, and the nutrition that is contained in here is phenomenal. It helps lower blood pressure. It's high in fiber. It helps reduce inflammation. And I will be putting out a video specifically dedicated to all the ways beets and beet juice can benefit your body. Now, a fourth way, and this is something that I like to do myself, a fourth way is to chop up your beets and to add it to your blender with some water, blenderize it, and drink it that way. I call it the whole juicing method because you aren't extracting any of the pulp or extra fiber material, you're taking in the entire beets. And I often like to do that with carrots, cucumbers, you name it, any type of vegetable, and especially here with beets. So let me go ahead and show you that. We're going to cut up our beet into small bits, small pieces, and then we're going to add it to our blender. And I know I keep mentioning Blendtec, but this is a Blendtec, and it is really, really powerful to just blenderize and pulverize. So now I'm going to add some water. Okay, so now we're going to blenderize. Here we go. Okay, so that's it. Now, look at this. It's beautiful, bright red, and we're going to pour this in a glass now. Here's another glass of amazingness. Here we go. That tastes so delicious. You can feel the texture of the pulp a little bit, but again, if you want the entire benefit of the fiber included in your juicing method, go ahead and try it this way in a blender. Otherwise, enjoy extracting it from your juicer, and you can drink this every day. I know I enjoy it every day, and I see incredible benefits to it in every way. So if you like this video, hit the like button and be sure to subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be notified the next time that I put out a video. And until next time, stay safe and be well. Today I'm going to show you how to make an herbal extract, and it's so quick and easy to do. And about 2 weeks ago, I ordered something called echinacea root, which is a very powerful herb. I call it the natural killer herb because it stimulates your own natural killer cells within your body, stimulating your immune system on a very high level. And I do actually have a video on echinacea and how powerful it is, and I'll leave that in the description down below as a link. So about 2 weeks ago, I ordered from my favorite place. It's called Pacific Botanicals, and I will leave a link to that company there. I love them because all of their herbs, all of their plants are either organically grown or wild harvested. I ordered echinacea root, which is different than the stem and leaf and flower. So you could either order the stem, leaf, and flower, the upper part of the plant, or you can order the lower part, which is the root. I believe and feel that the root is the stronger part of the plant, and I've been using it for decades, so I love it. And it took a while for it to come in, and about 9 days ago, I went ahead and started 3 of these herbal extract solvent solutions, and they're called maturations or mestrum. And you want to go ahead and put the name of the herb that you're using, or echinacea root, and the date, and it's going to look something like this. When you start with the root is you're going to fill up your jar somewhere between 1/4 and 1/3 of the way for the root. And the reason for that is because it's such a denser part of the plant, over time it's going to absorb all of the solvent and it's going to swell up. Now, the solvent I chose to use today is vodka, and the vodka is 40% alcohol, and that's the minimum you want to use. You can also use higher grade of alcohol, such as 60%, 80%, 95%, but I don't think you'll need to go that high. This has worked well for me for decades. Something else you could use, and certainly if you are adverse to alcohol or you can't have an alcohol-based tincture, you can also use something like apple cider vinegar, but make sure that you get organic, raw, non-processed, and that it also includes the mother, which you would see it down at the base. And before using it, be sure to shake it. It's also a very strong solvent, so you can use that instead if you would like to do that. So today we're going to start by using our echinacea root as the base inside our solvent. And this is what it looks like here. And I bought several pounds of it. And what we're going to start to do here is we're going to grab a mason jar just like this, and I went ahead and I labeled it already. So it's the echinacea root, and be sure to put the date. And I'm simply going to open it up, and I'm going to grab some of this. And again, because it's the root, you only need to fill this 1/4 to 1/3 of the way. I like to do it 1/3 of the way because I like a little extra in mine. So 1/3 of the jar, and we're almost there. That's about right there, right here. And what we're going to do next is we're going to fill it right about the shoulder of this jar. And we're going to just pour it all over the herb and get it right here to the shoulder. And there we go. That's about right. Now, if you were going to use the echinacea plant instead, what you could do is fill it about 1/2 to 3/4 full, so with the plant. And the reason for that is it's not as dense as the root, so it won't swell up as much as the root does. So you can actually load your jar up more. If you were doing your plant, you could go halfway to almost 3/4 of the way with your plant, the flower, the stem, the leaf. But again, because this is the root and it's going to swell up, you want to make sure that you only maybe put between 1/4 and 1/3 filled. So here, now we're going to put our lid on, and we're going to shake this vigorously, and we're going to get it all influxed with the vodka mixed in there. Now, what I want to show you is that these have been sitting for about 9 days, and these also were filled about 1/3 of the way, and you can see just how much they've swelled up. And that's how it's going to look in about 9 days. Now, you'll want to let this sit for between 4 to 8 weeks. And I lean more towards the 8 weeks because I like when my tincture is nice and strong. And incidentally, when you use the words herbal tincture, it specifically refers to an extraction made by alcohol versus an herbal extract, which could be either alcohol or apple cider vinegar, or it could even be glycerin. That's another video down the road. And sometimes people use water, but I feel that water is a very weak solvent and it doesn't really extract very much. But nevertheless, it's also a choice. Now, you'll want to let this sit in a cool, dark place. And every day for the first week, I want you to go ahead and shake it up. Once a day, just shake it up. And then after that, for the remaining time of 4 to 8 weeks, maybe every couple of days, just take it from the cupboard or wherever you're storing it and go ahead and give it a shake, just to kind of keep that fluid filling up all of the parts of the roots that's in your jar. And that's going to yield a really fantastic herbal tincture for you. Now, what do we do when the 4 to 8 weeks is done and you're ready to get your nice tincture or extract ready for use? So what we want to do now is we want to get our jar. Now, I am still letting these mature, but I have a jar of rose hip berries, and this has been maturing for the 8 weeks. So this is ready for me to extract and pull out from the jar. So what we're going to do is we're going to first shake this up a bit. Then we're going to remove the lid. And what I have here is I have a fine mesh nylon filter that I like to use, and I'll go ahead and leave a link to that down below. You can also use a piece of muslin, or you can use some cheesecloth. I like to use this. It's less messy and so super easy to clean. So we're going to get a bowl to catch the fluid and a strainer, and then you have your filter. So this makes it easy to do. We're going to go ahead and pour what we have. And you'll want to get every bit of this out. So now that that's poured, what we're going to do is take our sanitary gloves and put them on so that now we can grab the bag, and we're going to pull it away from the edge like this. It's just so easy to use this special bag. And remove the strainer, and we're going to gather this together. And what we'll end up doing is squeezing all of this excess liquid out of this beautiful rose hip berry and make a beautiful extraction. So we're going to keep gathering it together, and we're going to squeeze out all of that very valuable liquid that is filled with phytonutrients. And the great thing about these extracts, and especially using alcohol, is that it deeply pulls all of the amazing phytonutrients out of whatever it is that you have been maturing within the jar. And it's loaded with so many nutrients that are fantastic for your immune system, for your body as a whole, and also especially for your immune system. That's why I'm working with echinacea right now and have several jars maturing so that I can have it for my family, my friends, and anyone else that needs it. So we're done squeezing out all of this liquid, and what you can do is put the liquid back in the cleaned mason jar. But what I have here is a recycled bottle, and if you can find an amber bottle to store this much extract, that would be the best. If you don't, you can just, like I said, put it back into a clean mason jar. Be sure to label it and put it in a dark, cool place. So I've already labeled my bottle and I've dated it so I know when I made it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pour this liquid into this bottle. So here we go. Okay, so that's done. There was a little spillage there, but not much. And then we're going to cap it. And we have a full bottle of rose hip extract that is so, so powerful. And the rule of thumb is between 30 and 50 drops under your tongue, or if you have something that, an infection happening or a crisis, something happening within your body, you can take it more often. And what I like to do, once I've poured it in here, I have these little bottles here, and they're dropper bottles. So why are they called dropper bottles? Because they have these dropper caps that once you put your herbal tincture or herbal extract, you can just squeeze this little nipple here and grab how many drops you want. So that's what I'm going to do right now, is go ahead and pour the rose hips into this dropper bottle. And I always shake my bottle just to make sure everything is nice and stirred up, because there could be a little bit of sediment that settles once in a while. And you just pour it to around the shoulder area of your bottle, and always cap everything back and put your dropper lid back on, and there it is. You are now ready to use your herbal tincture or your herbal extract. And if you've chosen to use the apple cider vinegar, that's okay. You follow the same procedure with that. And that way you can administer that kind with the apple cider vinegar to children, to young people, or older people that can't handle an alcohol base. So this is how you do it. I'll be sure to leave a link to my echinacea video and also to the Pacific Botanicals company that I purchased these herbs from. And I'll also leave a link to the fine mesh filter that I use. And if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear them. And please do share this vital information with your friends, your family, anybody that you know that could use this information to harness all of the powerful nutrients that are in these great plants that are here to help build up our immune system. And at this time, it's so vitally important for us to do that. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified the next time I put out a video. And until next time, stay safe and be well.